Plague of the rootless. It was a cold, blustery night when I returned home. The kind where the wind howled like a living creature desperate to escape something far worse lurking just beyond the shadows. I stood before the door of my childhood home, a place that once echoed with laughter and warmth, but now felt more like a mausoleum, cold, devoid of life. I was here to face my family, the very people who had shunned me, and to deliver a message wrapped tightly in the darkness I had come to know far too well. Years ago, I was a botanist with a future bright enough to blind. I had been on the verge of a groundbreaking discovery when a colleague, motivated by jealousy, sabotaged my work, staining my reputation forever. They said I had contaminated a rare botanical sample with my reckless obsessions that revolved around cursed plants, those rumored to induce madness. My family, instead of offering support, laughed at me. "You'll lose your mind," they said. "You'll disgrace the family." And yet, here I was, having clawed my way back from the abyss, no longer a disgraced botanist, but a renowned expert in occult botany, an expert who had not just survived, but exposed the very horrors my family had mocked. I pushed the door open, the old hinges creaking like a ghostly lament as I stepped inside. The familiar scent of varnished wood and fading memories engulfed me, and with it came the weight of their disbelief. They gathered in the living room, faces morphing from surprise to suspicion as I appeared under the dim light. My mother, with her hair now streaked with gray, looked at me with the same contempt I had endured years ago. My father leaned against the wall, arms crossed, while my siblings exchanged glances filled with disbelief. "What do you want?" my mother spat, her voice carrying the sharp edge of familial rejection. I took a deep breath, swallowing down years of bitterness. "I came to show you the truth." My voice trembled, not from fear, but from the burden of what I knew. "Truth?" my brother sneered. "The only truth is you're still obsessed with those ridiculous plants." I felt the familiar sting of their ridicule, but this time I was armed with knowledge they couldn't fathom. "You don't understand," I said, stepping forward. "These plants are not just folklore. They're real. They carry sentient spores that can manipulate the mind, invade the body. I've seen it." Their laughter echoed like a curse, the sound slicing through the air between us. But I pressed on, my resolve hardening. I reached into my bag and pulled out a glass vial filled with a viscous, dark liquid. "This is the extract of a parasitic plant I've studied. It can spread its spores through the air, and if inhaled, it can take over a host." My family's expressions shifted from mockery to unease as I continued. "I've documented everything, the madness it induces, the way it twists reality. I've been to places you wouldn't believe, haunted architecture, cursed territories, and I've faced what others only whisper about." As the words spilled from my mouth, something in the atmosphere changed. The air thickened, crackling with an energy that felt alive. My mother's face paled as she took a cautious step back. "You're scaring us," she said, her bravado faltering. "Maybe you should be," I replied, feeling the shadows of my past trailing behind me like vengeful spirits. "You never believed me. You laughed at my passion, mocked my pain. But now you'll see what you've ignored." I opened the vial, releasing a faint, sickly sweet odor that filled the room. It was intoxicating, a promise of knowledge wrapped in dread. I could see their eyes widen, the dawning horror creeping in like a thief in the night. But it was too late. Whatever I had unleashed was already stirring. A sudden gust of wind surged through the open window, rattling the glass. The lights flickered, and I caught a glimpse of shadows dancing on the walls, twisting and writhing. My family gasped, hands flying to their mouths as panic set in. They were starting to understand. Then I heard it, a faint whisper, a chorus of voices rising from the dark corners of the room. "Help us, join us," they murmured, a cacophony of despair and madness that seemed to seep from the very walls. The shadows twisted further, elongating into grotesque forms. Dark figures clawing their way into the light, hungry for recognition and vengeance. "Mom! Dad!" my brother shouted, backing away into the corner. "What is happening?" The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. They were seeing the consequences of their disbelief, the price of their ridicule. This was my triumph, but it was also my tragedy. I had survived the darkness, but they would face the consequences of their mockery. I stepped back, watching as the shadows crept closer, the whispers growing louder. "You laughed at what I became," I said softly, "and now you'll see what I've endured." In that moment, they were no longer just my family. They were terrified witnesses to the horrors I had faced. Their screams filled the air, mingling with the whispers as the figures closed in around them. It was a visceral reminder of the thin line between belief and madness. And I was both a savior and a specter of their fears. As I turned to leave, I felt an unsettling calm wash over me. I had returned, not just as a botanist, but as a harbinger of truth. The laughter had ceased, replaced by the chilling knowledge of what it meant to be alive in a world that scoffed at the unseen. I stepped out into the cold night, the wind carrying their cries behind me. A chilling echo of what happens to those who dare to mock the shadows that linger just beyond the light. I was free, but the haunting realization lingered. Sometimes the truth is not just a weapon. It's a curse that binds its bearer to the darkness they sought to expose.